Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review of the Harbor Freight Braun 390 lumen LED lithium-ion rechargeable flashlight. I haven't done a Harbor Freight review in a while, and so figured we'd put one up. That, and I'm running out of Harbor Freight stuff to review. This is a pretty nice flashlight. It's actually really popular. It retails for, I believe, $29.99. You probably get a little cheaper finding various Harbor Freight coupons. It's been real popular because it's actually pretty well built. It actually has some nice features to it, although it's missing several things. And the head is very slim and compact. As far as the brightness, this table is illuminated with 5,000 lumens, and if we turn this on, we can still see it pretty bright. So it's definitely meeting the advertised lumens. It's kind of difficult to measure these floodlights because you need actually a special chamber so you can really measure the amount of light. If you just put a light meter, the appropriate distance, it doesn't really capture the total amount of light that's being emitted. But it is pretty nice. Now, one thing I'll mention is every once in a while, it has 3 modes where it's a bright, medium, and then it has a tiny little 1 LED flashlight. I would have liked if they had at least put 2 or 3. If this is an array, why not make this end light just a little bit brighter? Aside from that, every once in a while you'll turn it on full bright and then turn it off and then press the button and it will just turn off instead of going to dim and then the end light, and that gets a little bit funky. It does have an articulating head that is indexed. You can feel a spring-loaded ball bearing in there, but it also has quite a bit of friction in addition to having a detent. And it swings back and forth 180 degrees. The head also will rotate 180 degrees, although I have no idea why it really does because it's a round body flashlight. It has no hooks or anything like that. Maybe in the other issues, if you set it down and the head's at an angle, it will just roll over. And since it has a round magnet base, you can always twist it whatever direction you really need it to illuminate your area. So having a rotating head is interesting, but doesn't actually add much to the features of this product because it makes no real difference, to tell you the truth. What does make a difference is it has a replaceable lithium-ion 18650 cell. And that's really nice. You can charge those with independent chargers such as these. Although what has shown up obviously in the reviews, and there's hundreds of reviews of this on Harbor Freight's site, is that Harbor Freight does include a 18650 that's like a real cheap one, and it's a little bit longer. Not just a little bit. It's almost. It's not a 1/4 inch, but it's like an 1/8 of an inch. It's significantly longer. And it barely fits in anything that's truly designed for an 18650, which is 18 millimeters in diameter by 65 millimeters in length. We'll get to more on that in a second. There are other features that I do like the all aluminum body. It does have O-rings around the battery compartment. It has a nice little silver ring around the power button. The power button does have a nice little kind of light symbol. Another thing I really like is that when you turn it on, the power button has a green light, letting you know the charge status of the battery. And I've read the reviews, and they say that it goes to red when it starts getting low, and so that's a convenient way to see. It actually has a pretty thick and strong neodymium magnet. So this is a rare earth magnet and actually holds on pretty strong. You have to remember about these magnets is sometimes you say, well, it's not really holding on as strongly as I expected. Well, if you're on a round surface, it will hold, but it won't be super strong. If you have it against a wider, flatter surface, then there's more area for the magnet to contact or interact with, and it will hold on stronger. Obviously, a thicker cross-section of metal, thicker steel, it will hold stronger than thinner steel. It did have just a plastic cover over the bottom of the magnet, and the first few times I used this, it kind of got caught and started to peel up, so I just peeled it off because it's kind of a hard plastic, and once it starts peeling up, then it doesn't want to sit flat on surfaces, and it was a little annoying. So I will point that out, and really having a shiny bottom is no issue. I don't know why they put on the sticker because it doesn't do a whole lot to really protect the magnet from getting cracked or chipped. They would have needed to put a heavier plastic cover over it. If we too take a closer look, we can see it's manufactured pretty well. It looks like it was billet aluminum turned out on a CNC machine. The hinge, however, is plastic, and there has been a couple reports of the plastic cracking or breaking. It's pretty lightweight, but I'm sure if it hits the ground like on the sideways this way, that it will damage that. And that's one thing I did want to point out is the hinge. This isn't the most durable. You wouldn't want to use this on a commercial construction work site and other heavy-duty applications, which is kind of a little bit surprising because you would use a light like this more than just utility. It would be great in automotive because the thin stick allows you to put it into very tight areas while having a lot of light, and having it be kind of delicate is a little bit frustrating. Especially for $30, which is a bit more money at Harbor Freight, although a lot of what you're paying for is the lithium-ion battery and its charging technology, plus things like having the dual-color LED under the power light. And the charger also has two LEDs that go green. It's red when charging and green when charged. And let me go ahead and show those. They are some of the brightest charging lights I've ever actually seen on any product. Not just a Harbor Freight flashlight, or a cell phone, or other rechargeable flashlights. So many things, electric scooter chargers. But this thing, and it uses a micro USB. One thing I'll point out is that the plug doesn't go all the way flush. So even though it has a small diameter hole, it's kind of a short throw USB plug. So it should be pretty much universal with any cable. You can see how bright these lights are under 5,000 lumens. If we turn it off and let the camera adjust to normal amounts of light, this really demonstrates. It's actually pretty surprising, and for somebody like me who really likes LED lights, I totally don't mind it at all. I like the fact that you can quite frankly walk into a shop and see across the room whether or not this flashlight is charged. Some other people may not be so into having a screaming bright light. If this was in your a darkened room where you're trying to sleep, it would be surprising. It would be like a little night light. So I did want to point that out. It does have a nice little rubber seal, although it's kind of thin. It doesn't hold in super well, and this is like the first thing that's going to end up tearing off. Another thing to point out is even though it's pegged, it's pegged tight, so it doesn't really want to rotate, so that's going to cause additional strain right where it's connected, and it will fail at some point before the life of the flashlight is over. Let's go ahead and take it apart. The threads are okay, but they're not perfect. I wouldn't call this streamlight quality, but they're not bad. And then we have, actually, I have a Samsung 18650 because it's so convenient to replace the battery just like any other normal battery. The lifetime on this flashlight is less than 2 hours at full brightness, about 5 hours at half brightness, and about 12 hours on the little end LED. So considering it only has less than 2 hours at full brightness, if you're actually trying to do some work with it, it may take you longer than 2 hours. So I would recommend just off at Amazon or even Batteries Plus sells 18650 lithium ion cells. If you do replace them, it is recommended to buy a more premium grade. Like here, I bought as a replacement a Samsung 2500 milliamp hour. What it comes with is a 2200 milliamp hour, basically no name. It's actually quite a bit lighter weight than the Samsung. They also don't advertise what the specific chemistry of this battery is, although I suppose we could perhaps look up this number here and find out whether this is a lithium ferrophosphate or a lithium cobalt, an older technology. Lithium ferrophosphate is the best. That's the type of battery that you would want to get in an 18650 if you have a choice, is to get the LiFePO 4 batteries because they can be recharged. They're really some of the best right now. They can be recharged a lot of times and have actually a bit less fire hazard. As far as the comments about the batteries being a non-standard size, as you can see, the green Samsung is an absolute 18 millimeters by 65 millimeters. This Harbor Freight cell is more than just a little bit longer. It's going on 3/16 of an inch, especially with the little nub, which is non-standard. Every lithium-ion 18650 that's designed as an interchangeable cell like this always has a flat top, just because it's safer. It's less likely to want to contact something in a some kind of situation where you have it in storage. So having this little nub that actually protrudes beyond the plastic cover of the battery makes it just not quite as safe and is not following what would be considered international convention. So definitely a little bit oddball. I'm sure they got a real good price on these blue batteries. It appears they did use a brass-coated spring in there, so that should help reduce any problems with corrosion that may occur from condensation when this is in storage, maybe in your car. Furthermore, it looks like you have to disassemble the head to get really any further. The charging circuit is kind of just stuffed. It looks like it's cylindrical and may have been stuffed through here. This upper portion does appear to be threaded, but if it is, they use some kind of thread locker to prevent it from really ever coming unscrewing, so you have to really put a huge amount of force to get this upper collar to, at least on this one, to come loose. And on a final note, I would recommend, if you do have multiple batteries, this has a pretty low power. It's like a 500 milliamp charger or something in it. Excuse me, it may be 1 amp because it advertises a 4-hour charge time on a 2200 milliamp hour battery. And it, that would just be false advertising if it said 4 hours, although they may just be rating it at 2 amp hours than a half amp charger. Still, there's losses, but it may, I haven't measured the amount of current that it uses, but it's going to be somewhere between half and 1 full amp. Because a 4-hour charge time is a long charge time for lithium-ion battery. A 2-hour charge time would be much more appropriate. A 1-hour quick charge would be a pretty powerful charger and would technically reduce the life in the long term. But a 2-hour charger would have been a little more appropriate. If they have this aluminum body, they could have easily dealt with any additional heat from having a quicker charger than 4 hours. And that makes it so ridiculous that you really do need an extra battery because it takes twice as long to charge than it does for you to use it. Even though they do advertise that you can run the light while it's plugged into the charger, I'm sure it barely sends any of the power under that type of, or to the battery under that type of situation. And if you have that, then I would recommend just getting a more dedicated 18650 charger, and they make battery chargers that are just like any other rechargeable NiCad or nickel metal hydride AA or AAA charger, except for there's this design for those 3.7 volt 18650 lithium ion cells, and this is a Tenergy brand. I don't even know if they have a model number. There it is, 01269-01. This will get them charged in like an hour to 2 hours or less. And it does 2 batteries. It'll do 2 batteries and do them both in 2 hours or less. And so that's real nice to have when you have these extra cells, because then you can charge them quickly. And if you get a decent one like this Tenergy, it's actually independent cells. So you can have 1 or 2 batteries, and it doesn't matter which one it's in. An example, though, and to finish this out, is the fact that that Harbor Freight battery with its nub is so darn long that it won't even properly fit in what is a universal 18650 and 14500 charger. And a 14500 is a smaller lithium-ion cell, where obviously the Samsung, being a standard one, still has a little bit of room to spare. This battery can be forced into the charger, but you have to get it real square, and you kind of get it partially in there, and it works. But that's another thing to comment, is just that they use some kind of real cheap oddball 18650, and they advertise as an 18650, but there's a variety of situations where the battery compartments for true 18650s, this blue one would never work. So I would never recommend using these for projects or thinking that they actually might fit in something else like a power tool battery case. Absolutely not. Oh, and one last note, here's the charging wire it came with. It's pretty thin, it's real short, it's about 1.5 feet long. One thing I will mention is the plug-in end is one of the thinnest I've ever seen. There's no question about whether this cord will plug into any USB outlet, regardless of where it is. Never quite seen one that thin where it's just the molded dimensions of the USB plug itself, but I did want to point that out. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching another tool review from Catus Maximus. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. See you later.